companionship. But to start things off, this is my dog Kona. He is 8 years old and he's a golden retriever. And this is my little cat Lincoln. He is about 5 months old and we rescued him off the streets. And this is a funny picture I took of them together. As you can see, Kona is looking down on Lincoln with just shame on his little brother for looking so silly. So those two are the love of my life. They've made me who I am today, and they've made me an overall happy person, and they've calmed me down in really hard times when I'm anxious or sad or other bad things like that. But animals just do that to people in general. They can help them through hard times and calm them down when they're stressful or just make their day a little bit better. So with this, there are many benefits to owning an animal and having animal companionship. And there are benefits including both physical and psychological benefits to owning an animal. But to start things off, everything has a history behind that. So the first domesticated animals were said to be sheep and goat, and they were mainly used for meats and furs, but the first domesticated pets were said to be dogs. And Alicia Ault from the Smithsonian Magazine says that, quote, "Dogs and cats were buried with humans some 12,000 years ago," end quote. So it shows that a long time ago, back during the Egyptian era or like the Roman Empire, that dogs and cats were important to people and they were kept as pets, and they were buried alongside their owners, which shows that they had very importance with them. But this importance wouldn't come without a certain bond between man and animal. So animals are usually very hierarchical, which means that they like to follow a very dominant organism that they look up to and that is more like powerful over them. But they also have a very emotional bond, which is the most important one. And this makes a real connection between the owner and their animal, and that's what makes owning a pet really special. So this is a graph right here that shows the number of pets owned in the US by the millions. And as you can see, fish and cats are the two top most popular, and that's mainly because they're pretty low maintenance and they're pretty easy to take care of. There are also dogs, which are the third most important. And as you can also see, there are more dogs and cats in the US than there are children. So dogs are generally the most beneficial type of pets you can own because they can be used for service dogs and things like that. So what generally is a service dog? So there are 3 types of service dogs. There are generally just the service dogs, there are therapy dogs, and there are emotional support animals. So service dogs are mainly used to like guide the blind, help the deaf, and they could be even used as like drug dogs for police. But therapy dogs are mainly used as like a stress coping mechanism where they could be like brought into schools during finals week to help students de-stress and things like that. But then there are emotional support animals, which are used for people with mental illness or PTSD, and they can help with like panic attacks and coping mechanisms, and they can help their owners just make their quality of life overall better. So how do they become a service dog? They generally have to go through a very rigorous course where they have to learn certain commands and certain, like, I wouldn't say tricks, but just certain ideas to help make their owner's quality of life better. So, like I said before, they generally do things like helping the blind. They could help a deaf person when there is a generally dangerous situation, but they can also help people with like anxiety and panic attacks. If someone were to like cover their face like this, the dog would go over and try and break their hands apart. And another thing they could be used is like if a combat veteran comes back home and has PTSD and has night terrors, the dog could like stay close to him, and depending on when the combat veteran wakes up and how close the dog is to the veteran shows how bad the night terrors were for the veteran. So service dog certification says that, quote, service dogs must ensure their owner's safety and health, as it can become a life and death situation. So along with just service dogs, all animals in owning a pet has both beneficial physical and psychological benefits. So some health benefits to owning a pet is that it lowers stress, and there are a lot of health benefits with lower stress, which include lower blood pressure and lower cardiovascular problems, which are problems that deal with your heart. And the heart is the most important part of your body, so obviously you need great heart health to live a happy life. But some psychological benefits are you feel a lot calmer, and you generally have less depression because you feel happier and you don't have as much stress. But the most important part is that animals generally give you a feeling of self-worth, and Anna Sanduine says that, quote, pets provide acceptance without judgment, and they give unconditional giving support, end quote. So with this, you generally feel accepted and you don't feel judged when you're around an animal, unlike when you're in a crowded place where you could generally feel judged. But with pets, they don't judge you because they can't speak, obviously. So you feel accepted and they don't judge you for who you are, and they look up to you because you have to take care of them, so they trust you and they look up to you. So to end with this, there are definitely benefits with owning an animal. There are physical and psychological benefits, but they can also teach you important life skills such as responsibility, care, and sacrifice. And they will always be there for you, and they have always been there for me, which have made me who I am today, and they have obviously made me a happier person.